Hello, world. What is up? Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Matt Forte. We are here live at the Build Studio in New York City. The Elephant Queen is a breathtaking film, an adventure. It doesn't just follow Athena, an elephant matriarch who will stop at nothing to protect her family, but rather it embeds you as one of the herd, immersing us with jaw-dropping footage ranging from bird's eye view to elephant toenail height and everything in between. The film is the culmination of thousands of hours of impossible work that gives us a window into the lives of these incredibly majestic creatures. The film is an achievement, period. And I'm super excited because joining me now to discuss just how they did it, producer Lucinda Englehart is here, and director, producer, and co-editor Victoria Stone are with us. Folks, how about that? Are you excited? I'm excited. They seem to be excited. I imagine you're excited at home as well. We're going to bring them out in just a moment. But first, I believe we have a trailer for the film, so let's go ahead and run that clip.
There is an animal in Africa that truly reflects our sense of family. Meet Mimi, the newborn. Weiwei, the toddler, and Athena, who looks after them all. Their entire world is built on the love and strength of their family. Home is a waterhole in paradise. But one day, it all changes. Experience the incredible story of an inspirational leader. The loved ones she must protect, the home they must leave, the journey they must take.
Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause, please, and welcome our guests, Victoria Stone and Lucinda Englehart. Thank you. Wow. Congratulations, sincerely. What a film. What I said in the introduction, what an achievement. Years and years of work culminating in this beautiful, beautiful story that we get to kind of live and experience because of all the work that you put in. Wonderful job. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing? How are both of you doing today? You doing all right?
We're very, very happy to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you.
Thank you for having us. It's amazing to see the elephants amidst this New York traffic.
That's got to be wild. You're talking about things that are amazing to see. You know, people are seeing this film, a lot of eyes getting on this film, and a lot of people responding in so many different ways, emotional ways. Talk about, after putting so much of yourself into this project for so long, what it's like to see people react to it and respond the way they have.
So I think after 10 years of sort of dreaming up this film, then 4 years spent filming it, and then all the rest, to see audiences from 8 to 80 watching it, being moved by it, the most sort of common reaction seems to be, I just can't believe they're just like us. Yeah. And I think for Mark and I, Mark is my co-director, that really, it means something, because we wanted to bring them, across the world.
Yeah, you know, we hear stories of how they're just like us and how they grieve and all these different things, but and we see a glimpse of it in the trailer, the moment where they all revisit the remains of one of their, fallen elephant brethren there, and you get choked up seeing it, to watch it happen in real time, in real life. I had joked backstage, this is like the Lion King, but real. Like you see it all happen. What were some of those inspirations for you? You know, you say 10 years and then 4 years filming, leading into, what were the inspirations leading to making this film? What were your goalposts?
I think, firstly, to tell an emotional story about elephants. We'd experienced a terrible drought in 2009, where we'd seen the empathy within a family of elephants and what happened when they were pushed to extreme. So that had sort of hooked us in. We've lived and filmed in the wild in East Africa for 30 years. And we've lived around elephants, but never had we been drawn in that way. So we decided that we wanted to make a film about them, but also about all the other animals who share their world. But if we think about the actual inspiration of what we set out to try and do, it was it sounds a little bit pretentious, but our guides were March of the Penguins because of the genre, The Lion King because of the circle of life, and then Shrek because of the sort of what really factor. So but then to shoot it in the wild and to tell a story of a family and, as I said, all the other animals around them.
Well, that's amazing to hear, because you're right. You know, the film is considered, it is a documentary, right? But it is unlike a documentary that I've seen, you know, almost ever in recent memory. The way in which the narrative is handled, the way in which it's shot, and the way in which we connect with these characters, all their names, their voices, everything. It feels so much like you're watching a narrative film, or like you're watching The Lion King, because the circle of life is there. You know, you mentioned how long it's taken and how long you were embedded in the wild before even making this film. Did you capture anything that even you were surprised that you got on film, or that you saw for the first time?
To be honest, a lot of it. I mean, when we start a film like this, we have the sort of arc of the story, but you really don't know what's going to happen, who will become what we call the supporting cast. So you're kind of going with what happens as it happens. So all of it becomes a revelation, and you know, the depth to which we were able to watch the relationships within the elephant family, but also the interactions with the smaller animals. And I think it's the combination, really.
Yeah.
And your comment actually about that moment where they're mourning their brethren reminds me of a very magical moment when we did a test screening in the middle of the bush with an earlier cut of the film in Kenya. And when everyone was trying to get into the tent that we'd erected specifically for this screening, 2 bull elephants came and blocked the path. And then once the film started rolling, those around nearby told us that a number of elephants were drawn by the sounds of their kin and had come towards the screening. So it was just such a touching moment. And just your comment earlier just reminded me of that sort of, their empathy and
that is
synchronicity.
An incredible moment. Lucinda, I wanted to ask you too, from my understanding, you have a pretty unique perspective in sort of witnessing the reaction to this film and seeing a lot of people respond to it, not as a documentary, but connecting with the story and with these characters. What's that been like to witness that? And did you anticipate that kind of reaction?
Sure. Well, when I joined the project, I knew that, I think as you said, that it was going to be something very special, real life Lion King. But watching its journey over the last year and a half has been extraordinary. Now seeing Athena up on the billboards, so it's fantastic to be part of the inaugural slate on Apple's platform. Yeah. But the journey over the last year has also just taught us so much about the way people respond to elephants and the conversations that the film inspires amongst families, between individuals, about our place in nature. Yeah. So yes, the film had a fantastic life on the festival circuit after opening in Toronto. Played very well in Sundance, and I loved watching after every screening these children besieging Mark and Vicky with questions, not just about the animal kingdom, but also about the cinematography and the editing, and really, clever questions about how they put it together.
I think one of the most moving reactions to the film was actually by a woman in Kenya who came up afterwards and said, "This film has completely changed my consciousness about elephants. I used to fear them. I didn't really see that they had a part in our lives. I didn't really mind whether they existed or not. And now I realize how wrong I was, how they're just like us. I own a little piece of land in the middle of Kenya. I'm going to take down my fence. I'm going to learn about them. I'm going to welcome them. And I'm going to learn to live alongside them." And for me, that was just like, yes, we want to make a film that entertains and that informs across the world, but to make a difference on the ground is the ultimate.
I mean, if someone were to ask you to dream up the ideal reaction to the film, I mean, that ticks every box. Not only changing someone's perspective, but motivating them and inspiring them to act in such a way, and that they could have a direct impact. I'm taking down my fences. I'm opening up the land. Did you even believe that person was real in that moment? I mean, what a perfect reaction.
No, completely real. That was what was so moving about it.
This is happening. This is happening real time. You know, the film, yeah, you mentioned Toronto, and people have been responding to it on the festival circuit and all that. But yes, because it's part of the opening slate, a lot of new, fresh eyes are getting to it, and a lot of new people are being inspired by it. And we actually, in your partnership with Apple, we just heard some really exciting news today. I wrote down the exact news because this is fantastic. For all views of the film in 2019, Apple will make a donation to support elephant conservation efforts in the region where the Elephant Queen was filmed. I'm going to hold for applause because that's a big deal. That's going to be a lot of views.
It's an incredible announcement.
That's a lot of views. That means that's a big donation. That's a lot of help. What did you think when you heard this?
I mean, Mark and I were just speechless, and the team. We have a lovely, dedicated team in Kenya who we mustn't forget, and all of us are going to be just totally thrilled. We set out with the ambition of reaching the broadest possible audience, not necessarily of people who are already nature lovers, because I think it's a story that appeals way beyond that, but also to make a difference for elephants on the ground where the film is being made. And that's what Apple are doing. And to me, it's just brought together every ambition we had for the film. It's fantastic.
Just the direct impact, just knowing that everyone who sees it is making a very direct contribution to the preservation of the species in the area where the film was shot.
It's absolutely amazing. And you mentioned the crew. I think it's very easy, especially to see a film of this scope, if you have no context, to assume, oh, of course, there is a team of hundreds of people spanning the globe. How big is your actual team?
Okay, so I'm really glad you asked that question. The team is 10 people in the field, and that includes the people who do all the backup, because when we're living in the wild, we're just in tents in the middle of the wilderness. The animals are coming in and out of the camp, but we have to bring in our own water, our own food. We're completely self-sufficient. So we have a team of about 3 or 4 who make sure we all survive. And then with us about 5 or 6 people who are involved in the filming. Mark, my partner and co-director, did all the cinematography. And then, yeah, it relies on the dedication of that tiny group of people who lived together for 4 years, just believing that what we were doing was worthwhile and that it would find an outlet.
Unbelievable. And I was reading somewhere just the conditions within which you had to survive to make this film. And one of the facts that stood out was like, first of all, there's water rations. There's all these very strict rules which you had to adhere by to exist out in the wild. But there was one that stood out that I was amused by. It was like a treat would be like a square of chocolate, something else, and then maybe 20 minutes on an exercise bike. And I was like, wait, what? A square of chocolate, or you can exercise for 20 minutes. How was that considered? Who thought that was the treat? Were you excited to exercise for 20 minutes after being outside for 12 hours at a time? Like, what were those conditions like?
No, exercising on a bike in the middle of a camp when there's beautiful wilderness around you, but you can't just go out and walk in it because it's a national park, is really frustrating. And so, it's not great. But I think the toughest, actually, conditions was what we put Mark through. Because, I mean, we oh, wow. Okay, so I always say this is you could use this as a recipe of what to do with your partner, or you might not want to. But anyway, what we did was we built a box, a metal box, which was just bigger than Mark, and then worked out we could just put the.
They're married, by the way.
Yeah, we're still married.
Okay, good. Yeah, still married.
Yeah, buried the box underground, closed the metal lid. We weren't kind enough to cover the metal lid in some kind of shade. We just left it exposed to the African sun. 12 hours a day, we roasted him. One time we did it for 30 days until literally we thought he was losing the plot, so we decided he should have a break. But what it did was to achieve the most extraordinary water level shots, where you could be at elephant toenail height alongside the other little animals, as well as looking up at the elephants.
That's another one of those, I think, very easily misunderstood elements of the film from the public. And I was talking about this backstage, where like we see a film like this, and there's beautiful sweeping shots in the air, and you go, oh, cool drone shot. Or there's like, you know, the little underground shot, oh, they must have buried a camera. It's like, you were there. You were flying Cessnas holding the cameras. You built a box in the ground to get it's unbelievable. Was there a shot in particular that you couldn't even believe you got it? Like, oh my, we did it. This is going to be This is for the film. I knew it. Like, was there a moment like that? You have to find those little victories in such a long, grueling shoot.
Oh, I think what astounded me most was those extreme weather. We didn't see that often, but we have an old Cessna plane which we keep right nearby on a little sort of bush strip, and we always have it ready to go. The mount's on the wing, and when the weather was at its most dramatic, I couldn't quite believe what Mark was able to do. He'd put the camera on the wing, he'd put a little metal coffee tin lid over the lens with a rope back in through the window, and the metal thing is there to stop the flies and bugs getting on it before you're ready to do the shot. He's got a monitor inside the plane, and when he wants, he goes up, and then, so for example, say he wants to do a shot that's looking down at a waterhole and then up to reveal the storm.
Right.
He will literally, he'll pull his little coffee lid to open the lens, he'll dive the plane down towards the waterhole, and then slowly, he's counting the shot in his head, lift the plane. So he's using the plane like a tripod, and then he'll do that until he's so high that it's stalling, and then he'll dive again. And so it's really, you know, that's taking it to the edge. But in the end, it gets the shots, and it gets them in a simple way, and by being there all the time, you can just react to moments that you'd miss otherwise.
Right, I think that's right. That's the major advantage to having a human behind the lens, as opposed to just an automated system or something.
Yeah, and also when we were filming, for most of the time, drones weren't high quality enough.
That's right, because you were doing this over many years.
Exactly.
But you future-proofed it. You were shooting in
5 and 6K, yeah, on Red, Epic, and Dragon.
Unbelievable. One of the things that I often talk about with documentary filmmakers is, deciding when to follow the story or allow the story to happen in front of you. I know you had outlined a narrative that you wanted boxes to check off, but there's so much you can't plan for, so much you can't predict. What is it like navigating that, especially when you have a very specific vision in mind for the film? You know, how do you allow the room for those organic moments to happen, but still stay married to that narrative you want to tell?
I think it's a mixture of, you know, the arc of the story when you start. And then, for example, it took us 1.5 years to find Athena. So we knew we were looking for a matriarch with a smallish family, with young babies in it, with an elephant as beautiful as possible. And when Athena one day just turned up behind camp 1.5 years late, but anyway, she was there, and turned her head and revealed those beautiful, even, sweeping tusks, and she had a very calm disposition. We sort of felt we'd found our star. But in the making of it, so while Mark and the team are filming, I'll be editing and beginning to put together the sequences so that we can kind of build the story with what starts to happen and what happens as we go along. So it's quite an organic process, and we didn't know who the supporting cast would be other than the dung beetle, because you know, dung and dung beetles you can't avoid.
It's just good story. It's just fun. They're just fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's a lot of excitement down there. Lucinda, at what point in the project, like how far along were they when you joined, when you came on board?
So they were just emerging from the bush, hungry. And so I was just blown away by Mark and Vicky's vision for the film. This was actually my first foray into wildlife, but I'd been making films in Africa for many years and living in Kenya. And I just loved their way of telling this story quietly, not shouting about the issues, but engaging wide audiences through this compelling tale with these amazing characters.
Did you, both of you are mothers as well, and we follow a strong, beautiful, powerful mother throughout this film. You know, did you find yourself connecting to those moments? Were there moments that were more difficult to edit, or were there moments that blew you away in ways you didn't expect because of that connection?
I think we've had quite different experiences on this. I had 2 children actually during the time. Yeah, and I think the ultimate validation was when my 5-year-old son chose to dress up as a foam frog, which is one of the characters in the film this Halloween. So I know that it has seeped deep into their DNA. It's been part of my children's childhood. They love these characters. But I've also seen my friends take their children to see it now in London and at cinemas in the US when we had our theatrical release. And I mentioned it earlier, but I love the conversations it's provoking between parents and children, a way into some actually quite tricky conversations, but through the narrative.
That's kind of an amazing thing that the film does, and you also touched on this, in that it does just tell this story, and it opens the door for trickier conversations about how our world is changing, about climate change, about how our behavior impacts these animals, without that being such a big flag that you're waving throughout the story. No, the film just tells its story, and it makes you think about those things, which I thought was a beautiful way to handle it.
That's great to hear. That's exactly what we had hoped. So we embedded in it themes of female leadership, family, community, climate change. All of those themes are there. As you say, we don't shout about it, but they're in there. I think it's because Mark and I both feel very strongly that you don't want to be told everything all the time. You actually need to experience things. You need to feel it. Yeah. And really that was the driver for telling the story the way we told it. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a very powerful thing, recognizing that by telling this story, you'll reach a broader audience. You'll get more people to think and more open-minded people to come to it.
And then, of course, there is an outreach and education program that's run in parallel, which does enable people to go deeper into this world. So once they've felt the emotional pull of the story, they can then go in deeper and find out
They're
more.
motivated. They want to contribute. They want to help. They've watched it. Apple's helping them there. They're
and
gonna,
help
they'll
become
do that.
part
But now
of the
what more
change.
can they do? Yeah.
But
exactly.
most importantly with that as well, we've put all the focus, or a lot of the focus, on how the film is released in Kenya and the outreach in Kenya. And for example, we're doing a series of 28 children's books which which are based on characters from the film. So the idea is we're working with the government over there to put them in schools so that it's the beginning of a Learn to Read series where all the stories will be based on the environment and characters done in a childlike and playful way, but on the basis that if you grow up with those characters as your friends and what you identify with, it doesn't matter if you live in a city or alongside elephants, you just feel very comfortable and close to that natural world.
And it is actually quite exciting to already witness the global conversation about the characters on Twitter. So people are talking about, Wei Wei, and people have their little cat favorites. And
where did the names come from?
Well, Athena was named by a scientist. And although I think when we first heard it, we thought we'd change it. I don't know why we thought that now, but that's what we did. But then we never ended up changing it because obviously you become used to using it. Yeah. And the other characters, we just... like an intern named or came up with the idea, Stephen.
Looks like a Stephen.
Yeah, exactly. But what I love is we did one test screening and a sort of workshop in Kenya around it. And the next morning, everybody was supposed to arrive at 9 o'clock to this workshop. And there was one woman who was late, and everyone yelled out, "Come on, Stephen."
It already become a thing. That was it. Well, that's the name. Done.
And the reason we chose Mimi and Wei Wei is because in Swahili, that's me and you.
Again, we're going to take some questions from the audience, but I just have to just congratulate you on just such a wonderful achievement, a film. It's fantastic, and I'm so grateful for all the long hours that you put in to bring us this. It's amazing. And again, congratulations with this amazing announcement. I'll say it again, all views of the film, guys, all views of the film in 2019, Apple will make a donation to support elephant conservation efforts in the region where the Elephant Queen was filmed. It's huge. So watch the film anyway. Put it on loop. Just keep viewing it. Let's make a real difference. But we have some questions in the room. I want to leave time for that. I got at least two. Let's go ahead. Microphone in your hand. You're the first.
Hi, congratulations. I wanted to ask how you would describe the film in 3 words.
I don't know.
Nailed it. Well done. I mean, that's perfect. Do you want to take a swing, Lucinda?
No, I think maybe it's the description we have, our tagline, which is love, courage, and homecoming. There you go. Home is a very central theme to the film.
Beautiful. Great question. Thank you. One more. Let's do one more. Come on down.
Hi, guys. So we have a question from our site, and it's, what is your favorite fact about elephants that a lot of people may not know?
That they have approximately 40,000 muscles in their trunks. I'm not sure if that's exactly right, but they have a lot.
And a gestation period of 22 months. So when I say I had 2 children during the making of this film, yeah, they have the longest gestation period of any animal.
I was surprised by that. Thank you so much for that question. I was surprised by that as well. Again, as someone who's watched a lot of nature docs and some elephant documentaries, you think I would have stumbled upon that one. But the gestation period of 20, I was like, whoa.
Takes a long time to grow a baby elephant.
Yeah. Man, is it worth it? They're so cute.
Man, is it worth it?
The best. Thank you again so much, and congratulations, and enjoy this journey and this ride as we get out there. And I'm sure a million other people ask a million other questions, but it was such a treat to have you here today, and such a treat to watch this film. So thank you again. I remind the world it's on Apple TV Plus right now. Go watch it and watch it again and keep watching it. And then where can they go after they've watched it a million times to also contribute? Is there a great website or resource that they can head over to sign up or contribute even more?
They can go to the Elephant Queen website.
Perfect. There we go. Yeah. So head on over to that as well. Be a part of the solution. Thank you so much. Everybody, you were a great audience. Thank you for being here. Make a crazy amount of noise. And join me in thanking Victoria Stone and Lucinda Englehart for being here. Thank you.